Mangwanani malelepo vukenjani class vanave Africa. Welcome to Africa Good Morning, the news and current affairs show bringing you everything you need to know happening on the African continent and beyond. You are joined by Diana Master and Ashwin Betty, and we're excited to be celebrating the NTV birthday on the 8th of February, and you can celebrate with us by scanning the QR code in the Algemene Zeitung, Namibian Sun and Republican, answering the question that is over there, and you could win a DSTV dish kit, a DSTV Explorer, a GoTV decoder, or 3,000 for Sheena Group shopping voucher. Entries close on the 6th of February.
Now let's get into what you can expect in today's broadcast. A sex trafficking suspect, Gerhard Ackerman, caught by civilians after he went on the run. 20 people dead after trucks crash into commuters in Nigeria's south, and Cyclone Cheneso no longer a threat to Mozambique. We'll be back with the top stories after the break.
Now, the man accused of 740 charges, Gerhard Ackerman, ranging from rape to murder, distribution of child porn and human trafficking of minor children for sexual exploitation, was arrested yesterday after jumping bail on Thursday. Gerhard Ackerman went on the run after pleading not guilty to all the charges and was on bail of 6,000 rand at the time. Police placed him under arrest yesterday morning after he was spotted and grabbed by members of the public at the Florida Junction shopping center in Ruedeport. Now, the role played by the South African media in his apprehension must be applauded, as the images circulated by the media led to members of the public spotting Ackerman in Florida in the west of Johannesburg, said NPA spokesperson Pindi Mjondongwane. They immediately arrested him and called the local South African Police Service officials, who acted swiftly to effect the warrant of arrest. A legal expert says the disappearance of alleged child sex ring kingpin Gerhard Ackerman's blame should be placed on the doors of the police for falling sure he does not abscond. Another legal expert believed 6,000 rand bail might have been a small price to pay for someone charged with such crimes.
Getting into our next story, two separate road crashes involving trucks in southern Nigeria left 20 people dead, including children, authorities said Sunday, with many of the victims burned beyond recognition. In Nigeria's commercial hub of Lagos, a truck carrying a heavy container landed on a commercial bus on a busy bridge in the Ojuelegba area of the city. Dr. Olufemi Oke Osanyintolu with the State Emergency Response Agency said in a statement. Further investigations revealed that the bus was picking up passengers when the truck lost control and fell over the side of the bridge, he said. Only one woman survived, while 9 passengers, including 2 children, died in the crash, he added. Residents quickly gathered at the scene minutes after the truck fell on the bus, but none of the passengers could be pulled out under the weight of the 20-foot container until officials arrived with rescue tools about 1 hour later. Earlier on Sunday, another truck collided with a bus in Odigbo Council area of Ondo State near Lagos, killing all the passengers on board, said Nigeria's Road Safety Agency. Road crashes are common in many parts of Nigeria where roads are in poor conditions and traffic regulations are usually not adhered to. They are worse in Lagos, Nigeria's largest city, where trucks and other heavy-duty vehicles often ply the same roads with commuters.
Now, children of Zimbabwe exemption permit holders won a reprieve last week after the South Africa government backed down in a case claiming many schools were preventing them from registering due to the uncertain legal status of their parents. The ZEP system expires in June, which means permit holders are required to apply for regular South Africa visas, allowing them to live and work in South Africa. The ZEP system was introduced more than a decade ago to regularize the legal status of Zimbabweans who were illegally in South Africa due to political and economic hardships at home. The ZEP Holders Association filed an urgent application in the Pretoria High Court last week, claiming that children of ZEP holders who had grown up and attended school in South Africa were being denied registration at a number of schools in South Africa. Now, the termination of the ZEP system is being challenged in a separate case by ZEPA, which argues that permit holders, most of them taxpayers in South Africa, have a legitimate right to permanent residence in the country.
Now Tunisia has announced, Now Tunisia has announced that a mere 11% of the electorate had voted on Sunday in parliamentary runoffs, with critics of President Kais Saied saying the empty polling stations were evidence of public disdain for his agenda and seizure of powers. The head of the Electoral Commission, over which Saied assumed ultimate authority last year, gave a provisional turnout of 11.3% for Sunday's runoff votes. During December's first round, the official turnout was only slightly lower at 11.2%. Today, Tunisians issued a final verdict rejecting Kais Saied's process and elections. Najib Chebi, head of the main opposition coalition, The Salvation Front, told a news conference economic decline in Tunisia, where some basic goods have disappeared from shelves and the government has cut subsidies as it seeks a foreign bailout to avert bankruptcy, has left many disillusioned with politics and angry with their leaders. About 887,000 voters cast ballots from a total electorate of 7.8 million, the Electoral Commission said. Final results were not expected on Sunday. The main parties boycotted the vote and most seats are expected to go to independents. I'm not interested in elections that do not concern me, said Najib Sali, 40, passing a polling station in the High Tahrir district of Tunis. Independent observers, including the local Murakibun group, have questioned official turnout figures, accusing authorities in many districts of withholding data they rely on to monitor the election's integrity. The commission denied this and said polling stations officials had been too busy to cooperate with the monitors.
All right, now Dan Izzet has lived with leprosy's effects on his body for 70 years and has lost much to what he calls an ancient, fascinating, very unkind disease. Now, the Zimbabwean former civil engineering technician and pastor was diagnosed at the age of 25 in 1972, but first contracted the disease when he was just 5. That long incubation period gave the bacteria that causes leprosy, Mycobacterium leprae, lots of time to spread through his body. His right leg was amputated in 1980 in Zimbabwe's capital, Harare. Now 75, Izzet has no feeling above his elbows, below his knees, or in 70% of his face. The lack of feeling poses a constant danger, Izzet told AFP in a phone call from his home in southwest England. In 2021, more than 140,500 new cases were detected worldwide, nearly 3/4 of them in Brazil, India, and Indonesia, according to the WHO. However, pandemic-related disruptions have led to nearly 40% fewer cases being detected in a year, with fears that tens of thousands have gone undiagnosed.
Now bringing us to the end of our top stories, tropical cyclone Cheneso is no longer a threat to Mozambicans, although its effects are still being felt in coastal districts of the central provinces of Zambezia and Sofala and the southern province of Inhambane, with the occurrence of strong winds that are generating waves up to 12 meters tall. According to a statement issued by the National Institute of Meteorology, the cyclone is moving south down the Mozambique Channel at a speed of 7 kilometers per hour. The system, which formed on January 17 in the Indian Ocean, could become an extratropical depression in the next 4 days, the document said, adding that the phenomenon is in the Mozambique Channel, 100 kilometers off the west coast of Madagascar. Its epicenter is located at coordinates 20 degrees latitude and 42.9 east longitude, with a maximum wind speed of 120 kilometers per hour and gusts of 165 kilometers per hour. In coastal areas, meanwhile, high winds of 120 kilometers per hour are still forecast. Cheneso formed in the Indian Ocean east of Madagascar over a week ago. As it passed over northern Madagascar, it was expected to dissipate, but instead it entered the Mozambique Channel and grew in strength. On Wednesday morning, Cheneso's average wind speed was 75 knots, which is about 140 kilometers an hour.
That brings us to the end of our top stories. After the break, we talk to Mike Sichula in Zambia.
We now cross on over to Zambia to speak to Mr. Mike Sichula to give us the latest news on the ground. Starting off, state-owned electricity company Zesco Limited plans to hike electricity tariffs by 37% to be spread over 5 years. Good morning, Mr. Sichula. Please take it away.
Thank you very much. Yes, indeed, Zesco Limited, in its quest to dismantle over 1.3 billion debt owed to independent power producers and to meet system and customer-based expansion, has applied to the Energy Regulation Board to increase electricity tariffs by 37% to be spread over the next 5 years. This application is yet to be considered by the energy regulator ERB, but recently the ERB approved another application by state power utility to increase connection fees for electricity, meant to improve its service delivery. So Zambians are now paying about $120 to have power connected to their house, a figure that was way below $70-50 for connection. But because of what the utility firm wants to say is to improve its service delivery, they are further applying for tariffs to be adjusted upwards by 37% in the next 5 years. This has been met with mixed feelings by electricity consumers who are bracing increased load shedding. As I did indicate last week, that Zambia is looking at importing between 100 and 200 megawatts of power to cushion electricity rationing.
All right, Mike. Now, could you please tell us how health authorities are responding to the recent outbreak of the waterborne disease cholera in eastern Zambia?
Yes, so far, one person has died from the waterborne disease, and close to 20 people have been infected, and this has been brought about by the floods, as you can see from the aerial photos that have been shared by Disaster Management Unit. So this is health authorities now are moving in to vaccinate the cholera vaccines to ensure that the disease does not spread widely. The last time Zambia experienced a cholera outbreak, close to 5,000 people were infected, and over hundreds died from the waterborne disease. And it is expected that heightened awareness operations are going to be done, as well as distribution of chlorine and moving people to safer grounds and equipping health authorities, health centers with adequate medicine to treat those who may be affected by the cholera outbreak.
Well, we'll be keeping an eye on the situation, and we trust, excuse me, and we trust that you'll be able to give us an update. Now, moving on, police have in the last month arrested at least 9 people in connection with the theft of copper cathodes. Could you please tell us about this?
Yes, copper theft in Zambia is one of those cases that keep coming up here and there. Like as I speak, police are looking for a truck driver who is whereabouts unknown after he vanished with copper valued at 80,000 United States dollars. And because of this, the Zambia police has arrested at least 7 to 9 people who are believed to be involved in the theft of copper concentrates as well as cathodes. It is something that sometimes drivers do connive with criminals to stage a robbery and pretend as if they were abducted and later resurface. But in the actual sense, drivers of these goods, some of them, they do actually get involved in these criminal activities to vanish with copper. So because of this, the Zambia police has heightened security measures as well as intelligence way of getting information to understand whether these drivers are involved. Some of them are not involved, are actually abducted by these criminals and left for dead in some cases.
All right. Now, your next story, which unfortunately does not get any better, and is actually a rather sad note. A girl who was sent away from school and went missing was found dead with body parts missing. Could you please tell us about that?
A very sad story. Precious Kaunda's body was found floating in a river by 3 boys who went missing. So the brief background about this story is that the deceased was chased away from class by her teacher because she was said to have been disturbing other learners in terms of her making noise and the like. So the teacher, in trying to control the situation, sent away the deceased. But when the deceased was sent away, she never came back to class. And it was only discovered by the parents who waited until around 23 hours when their child did not return from school. That is when authorities, an alarm was raised. So for about a week now, I think for about a week, she has been missing until now when police, when she was found floating in a river, dead, and body parts missing, such as limbs, her private parts, and police now have launched investigation to understand what could have led to the death of the 6-year-old girl.
Truly horrific, truly horrific. Thank you, Mike, for bringing us the stories as they are from Zambia.
Thank you very much, Africa. Good morning.
Let's have a look at the weather predictions. Heading into economic news, Egypt's Commercial International Bank has taken full ownership of Kenya's Mayfair CIB with the purchase of the 49% of shares it did not already own, it said on Monday. CIB bought a 51% stake in Mayfair Bank in 2020, offering funds, skills and infrastructure to speed the tiny Kenyan lender's growth at a time when it accounted for only 0.2% of the East African nation's banking market. Kenya offers great opportunities, said Hossam Rage, the head of Mayfair CIB. Operating profit at the bank jumped 6.4% in 2021, Mayfair CIB said, adding that the acquisition has been approved by the central bank and will take effect on January the 31st.
Moving over to South Africa, so far this year, only 3 of Eskom's coal power stations are consistently generating more than 2,000 megawatts of power on average. It has a total of 14 coal power stations, of which only 3 have total capacity below 2,000 megawatts. Of the remaining 11, 7 have generating capacity of more than 3,500 megawatts. These are big power plants. This was revealed by executives from the utility in a presentation to the Mineral Resources and Energy Portfolio Committee in Parliament on Friday. For sure, the sample period for this is relatively short, just 3 weeks, but the performance of Eskom's generating fleet remains horrendously below par.
That brings us to the end of our economic news stories. Let's head into the economic indicators just before the sport. Right, we start off our sports stories in the world of cricket as India's captain Pandya slams shocker of a wicket after win against New Zealand. India's standing captain Hardik Pandya has criticized the pitches used for the first 2 T20 internationals against New Zealand and hopes better surfaces will be rolled out for Wednesday's decider in Ahmedabad. Now, Pandya and New Zealand counterpart Michelle Santner were surprised by the sharp turn throughout the series opener in Ranchi, where the touring side prevailed by 21 runs to grab a 1-0 lead in the 3-match series. The spinners played an even more dominant role in Sunday's second match in Lucknow, where New Zealand posted 99 for 8, but managed to stretch the contest to the penultimate delivery of the match before India eked out a 6-wicket win. Spinners from both sides bowled 30 out of the total 40 overs, and not a single six was hit by a batsman. Surya Kumar Yadav's uncharacteristically restrained 26 not out of 31 balls was the highest individual score by the batter. To be honest, it was a shocker of a wicket, Pandya said at the post-match presentation ceremony. I don't mind difficult wickets. I am up for all of that. But these 2 wickets were not made for T20. Somewhere down the line, the curators or the grounds that we are going to play in should make sure they prepare the pitches in time, he said.
Heading into some tennis news, Novak Djokovic reclaimed the top spot in the ATP rankings released on Monday after winning his 22nd Grand Slam title at the Australian Open. The 35-year-old Serbian rose 4 places to dislodge Spain's Carlos Alcaraz, who missed the tournament through injury and dropped to second. Djokovic's 10th Australian Open title means he's world number 1 for the 374th week since July 2011. Greece's Stefanos Tsitsipas, who lost to Djokovic in straight sets in Sunday's final in Melbourne, overtook Norwegian Casper Ruud in 3rd place, matching a career best ranking he first achieved in August 2021. Andrei Rublev of Russia, dominated by Djokovic in the quarterfinals, climbed to a career best position of 5th. The shock elimination of Djokovic's longtime rival Rafael Nadal in the second round saw the Spaniard drop 4 places to 6th. Karen Khashanov's run to the semi-finals in Melbourne propelled the Russian up 7 places to 13th. Tommy Paul of the United States, who also reached the final 4, broke into the top 20 for the first time as he soared up the rankings by 16 places to 19th.
Moving over to golf, McIlroy pips Reed by 1 shot to win 3rd Dubai Desert Classic crown. World number 1 Rory McIlroy won his 3rd Dubai Desert Classic title on Monday after he shot a final round of 68 to finish at 19 under overall, beating Patrick Reed by 1 stroke. Reed finished with a commendable final round score of 65, which included an eagle on the par 5 10th hole, but bogeyed the 16th to post 18 under overall. In response, McIlroy kept his cool and birdied the last 2 holes, including a wedge to 15 feet and a downhill putt on the 18th to celebrate his first title on the DP World Tour since November 2019. It was a battle all day. Honestly, it has been a battle all week. I really feel like I haven't had my best all week, but I managed my game and played really smart, McIlroy said. I managed my game well, lots of room for improvements. Mentally today, it was probably one of the toughest rounds I've ever had to play because it would have been really easy to let your emotions get in the way. I'm going to enjoy this. This is probably sweeter than it should be or needs to be. A really good foundation for the year. Australia's Lucas Herbert, who had set the clubhouse target at 16 under overall earlier in the day, finished 3rd.
Closing off our sports stories, Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova said on Friday that any attempt to squeeze Moscow out of international sport because of what it calls its special military operation in Ukraine was quote-unquote doomed to fail. Since Russia sent tens of thousands of troops into Ukraine in February last year, some sports bodies have suspended Russian teams or athletes to protest against Moscow's war in Ukraine. Kyiv said earlier on Friday that Ukraine did not rule out boycotting the Olympic Games if Russian and Belarusian athletes were allowed to compete in the Paris 2024 Games.
That brings us to the end of our sports stories. After the break, we return with highlights from the broadcast.
The Regional Review brings you news, views, and interviews from NMH correspondents from across the country. If you would like to feature your brand or campaign on this platform, contact regional@synergy.com.na.
Sport Wrap is a daily show focusing on all sport news and current affairs. If you would like to feature your brand or campaign on this platform, contact sportwrap@synergy.com.na.
You're watching Africa Good Morning, and if you're just joining us, here are your news highlights. Sex trafficking suspect Gerhard Ackerman caught by civilians after he went on the run. 20 people dead after trucks crash into commuters in Nigeria's south. Reprieve for Zimbabwean students denied school registration in South Africa. Egypt's CIB takes full ownership of Kenyan Linda Mayfair.
Those have been our stories. You can catch the repeat the same place you caught the show at 8:30, which is on DSTV 285, GoTV 94. This is Africa Good Morning from Diana Master and Ashwin Berry. Suraj Lakanaka.